The president did acknowledge the frustration of protesters and expressed willingness, of course, to engage in dialogue aiming to bridge the gap between government actions and public expectations. President Tinubu emphasized that though his administration's policy measures agrees are painful in short term, they are essential for reversing decades of economic mismanagement and fostering long-term growth. Let's again get more perspective to this. Managing Director, CEO, Dignity Finance and Investment Limited, Dr. Chijioke Ikechukwu, joins me live from Abuja to continue this conversation. Good afternoon, Dr. Ikechukwu, and it's really good to see you.
Good afternoon, Tolo. It's my pleasure always.
All right. I think we should start from the beneficiaries, expected beneficiaries of funds for MSMEs, small businesses, manufacturers, and all of that. This is not the first time we hear monies are being released to these players in the segment of the economy. What more can be done so that who needs to get what gets it? That's what I think, where I think we should start from. The president has approved for these monies to be released, but how do we monitor and evaluate some of these moves or initiatives by government?
From all the efforts made by government, you could see that he has been listening to the yearnings of the people by the kind of financial incentives given to Nigerians. I have always said that the intentions may be right, but the execution of most of these issues may be faulty, or at least suboptimally done. You see that many times when some of these things happen, if there are supposed to be disbursements for MSMEs, virtually everybody will start answering MSME in order to benefit from that. You see a lot of lists of people being included as MSMEs in order for them to benefit from some of this. So these are some of the issues, and we need to be intentional about our database. In other words, we need to use a predetermined database that nobody will even know the use of, so that we have that database, so that when they need to disburse funds or grants or loans to come, when the need comes, we will use the database. That way, you won't have anybody coming from somewhere who apparently was not supposed to be part of that group, coming to join that group and things like that. In the past, when palliatives and incentives were distributed, many Nigerians, you ask whether they received, they will tell you no, they didn't receive. So you see, these are some of the things. Intentions of government are right, but execution may still not be perfect. We need to improve on that execution, because we have seen a lot of things that the government is doing. 75,000 beneficiaries of 1 million micro and small business with single-digit interest. 1 billion naira each to larger manufacturers, also good intention. But then you will now see who the large manufacturer is and who the large manufacturer is not. Those are the issues. The intentions are right, always. Execution not very right.
All right. Before I talk about I just remembered that also tariffs has been taken off some food stuff. That is something that we should talk about, Dr. Ikechukwu. I'm looking at how this would also, like we talked about, implementing, because it's for a 6-month period, and we don't know what would happen after that. What do you think, or what impact would this also have on the price of some of this food stuff? Would there be any form of pressure on Forex that is, of course, scarce at this time?
Okay, what is going to happen is the cost push inflation is going to, of course, all the things that we have here that probably may not be enough. That is why you see that the food inflation is just rising. Now, when the market is open and then the import duty is waived for food items, we're going to be having those food items come in at lower rates, which actually is going to impact the system positively. Now, but that is only if the exchange rate, there's going to be pressure on exchange rate from a lot of people who want to now import food items. Now, the same area, that may increase the exchange rate. And so if these food items are coming in with high exchange rate, there may not be so much impact, even though competition will force the prices down. That is actually what's going to be achieved with that. So there will be a lot of food coming in at lower rates because they're not going to pay import duty. But don't forget also that the exchange rate is going to be shooting up, and that may not significantly give us the kind of mileage that we want to achieve with that. That's the implication of that. Food will be available, and so when food is available, you see a lot of importers wanting to sell their food at any low price that is good enough. But don't forget also that they won't want to sell at a loss because exchange rates would have been also high to be able to purchase those things. Those are some of the little snacks that may happen.
The Ankobora scheme. We've had different schemes to help empower the farmers to be able to improve or increase productivity. Acres of land, people want to farm maize and all of that, extension of all of this. But many will still say that how soon would we start to reap the benefits of all of this? We're supposed to be getting into the harvest season. Will all of this impact pricing of food? Doc, the last time we discussed inflation, food inflation is far above 40%.
Yes. Okay, so a lot of things need to be done in whatever of course, you know that with even the waiver on food importation, waiver on import duties on food, you see that it takes almost about 3 months or 4 months for the ships to come into this this country. So the impact will not be seen now, but I know that towards the end of the year, we're going to be seeing a lot of the positive impact of this importation and these waivers that are already given, because that's when the food being imported will start coming in. Now, on the Anchor Borrowers program, we've been enjoying part of it in the past when the prices of rice and some other grains were low. But again, some other factors came in and started affecting the prices and output production of some of this agricultural produce. We'll continue to talk about insecurity in the farmlands. We also talk about the harsh weather that we have, and then the fact that we are not mechanized enough to be able to produce the kind of things we want to produce. But going beyond this, we're still talking about the federal government. Now, I keep saying, and I keep asking, what stops the state governments from having their greenhouse farms, even if they don't have enough land? What stops every state government from having large greenhouse farms all over the place, specializing in different kinds of agricultural produce? Do you know that if we have 36 states or the Federation producing things either straight from their farms or through greenhouse farms, we're going to be having excess farms. So those things are not happening. Only a few states, Jigawa, maybe Kano, and some of the states that are having those and that are producing into the market. So we need to have governments of various states to take it as their responsibility, because when they sit down and they hear the effort of federal government, they relax. They are not doing what they're supposed to do as subnationals, and they are supposed to actually identify those particular agricultural produce that will grow well in their areas. Otherwise, they just develop their greenhouse farms. If we have all the state governments having enough of it, we're going to have excess food, and prices of goods, prices of agricultural goods are going to come down. So these are the things we're not doing. All the efforts we see are coming from federal government. The state governors and the state governments need to do a lot in order for us to have this sustainable food production.
Clear message there, Dr. Ikechukwu. Let's look at this credit environment. Let's see, many talk about Nigeria could have a credit system that works. And President Tinubu has come up with the Credit Corporation, even increased funding in recent times to make sure that this goes round. Also, we have the student loan scheme. I think this is targeted at the young ones. What would you say about communication? Do you think everyone is aware of this? And how much more do you think students or young ones, how much more advantage of this can they take at this very critical time?
Where student loan scheme works so well is where you are certain that when the students come out, they will have jobs. in some developed countries where this scheme works very well, you are almost 90% certain that when these students come out, there are going to be jobs for them, and from there they'll start paying. Now, we are talking about students' loan scheme that is going to start or that has started, and the students are going to have these loan programs and benefit from these loans. When they finish, what about if they don't get jobs because they have to pay back with the jobs and the salaries they're going to earn when they start jobs? So there is a disconnect there. So, but for whether it has good intention, yes, it has good intention because it will now help students whose parents cannot cope with the higher fees right now on education. It will help them a lot. That's a laudable program. But again, like you said, many students do not have an idea of how to approach these loans and access these loans and what will happen. So we need to do a lot of advocacy here in order for us to have these things go around the entire schools so that students will really hear. Now, as we're doing this program and somebody is probably doing advocacy, say in the TV, these students may not be watching the TV. Even if you are doing it in TVC, they may be watching another station. So there has to be this advocacy that will go to universities and let them know. We don't have too many of them here, so they can really go around and tell them what they have in stock and how they can access. And maybe even possible, put some centers in all these universities on where the students can approach. Just like you have branches of banks in all these universities, we can actually have centers where students can actually approach them and make inquiries and access those loans. That way, we are certain that they are going to hear. Otherwise, we'll continue to talk on the TV stations. They may not hear because they are not watching. They are already busy on their social media, not watching TV, as the case may be.
The Skill Up Artisans, that super project, and also the Nigerian National Youth Academy and the National Youth Talent Export Program. Now, still staying with the youth, what more can we? Many will say, yes, gone to school. Not everyone will do the white collar jobs, but you know, other people need to look at technical jobs and other kind of jobs that, of course, are used to earn a living. So, what more do you think government should do along that angle? Talking about empowerment specifically. I know ICT is also very important. Tech is key. Look at what happened in Kano State. The president is not happy. A whole digital center, NCC, was vandalized and all of that. But what do you think government should also be looking at when it comes to job creation, aside the regular kind of jobs?
Okay, recall that many years ago, say in the 70s and 80s and maybe part of 1990s, we used to have technical colleges all over the country. We used to have technical colleges, and these colleges were actually there training all kinds of skills, and students were just acquiring these skills. But over the years, these technical colleges were shut down or closed down, and they were converted to regular secondary schools. I do not know why. I know that is still happening in some African countries where you are a university graduate, you are not superior to anybody that went to technical college because they are even having their jobs hands-on almost immediately they finish from the technical colleges. So we need to get back to that era where we used to have technical colleges all over the place. If we want to enhance their qualification, we can enhance it. I think that was the model for which polytechnics were created. But again, all polytechnics wanted to become like universities, and so they lost it at that point. So we're talking about technical colleges where they will have their certifications, and then, of course, they are going to be experts in plumbing, in electrical engineering, in woodworks, and all those things. You know, so we need to get back to that era. Instead of mass-producing schools, we need to think about having to build more technical colleges. Yes, it's also good to give some grants in those areas, but it is far more than that. We need to have more, people should have more access to those kind of colleges, and the government must take them seriously and must recognize them, not making them feel inferior to university graduates, whatever, because they need to actually be employers of labor, not employees of labor.
Before I let you go now, Dr. Ikechukwu, one way or the other, government has improved revenue, generated revenue. And government has also reduced debt servicing. I had that discussion also with my first guest, and I know you would like to talk around this. What do you also make of this? And if this is sustained, what will be the expected outlook?
Oh, well, of course, it's so clear. We are seeing the figures rising from the FIRS and, revenue, they are revving from that area. We also see the revenue coming from oil production. Our capacity is gradually improving because government is beginning to fight oil theft, and we are actually dealing with those. But you see, while the government is increasing revenue, Nigerians also want to hear that cost of governance, cost of governance at all levels, at the state, at the federal, and local government areas reduced. I can tell you, people are watching and seeing, when we're talking about increasing revenue, they see that as benefiting the federal government or the government. But, people want to see any situation that would dovetail into the improvement into their pockets. Disposable income has to increase for them. Cost of living must reduce for them, and they should be able to afford an average price of goods and services in the marketplace. Tolu, I know you have been in the market recently. Even if you have not been, your family members must have been, and they will be taking the money from you to enter the market. You know the cost of everything in the market. So government may be getting revenue, but that revenue must dovetail into having enough disposable income by Nigerians. And that is actually the clamor that everybody's asking for. I can tell you, before the end of the year, we're going to be having better revenue. And then the fact that we have actually settled most of our obligations, especially in the FX area, and then obligations in other areas, we are going to do better. But you see, Rome was not built in a day. And, some of these things, the positive impact will only be seen by the end of the year or somewhere next year. And that is why we need to be a little patient to enable government to actualize most of the things they have already started to do.
Indeed, it's a good way to live it. I must thank you so much. I've been speaking to Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer with Dignity Finance and Investment Limited, Dr. Chijoke Ekechukwu, a top member there, yes, of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you so much. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Tolu. Pleasure.